Hey everybody, it's Joe Platts and Chris Elder with Place Navigators in the same studio, Chris.
Yeah, look at us. We're both here together.
What? Yeah. I mean, normally we're like 5-10 feet apart, maybe 5 miles apart, but sometimes 500 miles apart. So,
Yeah.
It's hard to know. But hey, so Chris, recap us on what the last episode was about. What did we discuss?
So we kind of talked about how to avoid the biggest seller mistakes, and we were joined with Dan, and that was a really awesome episode.
Yeah.
You guys need to go back. You guys need to take a look at it. It's really some useful information for sellers or even buyers. Just great episode. Joe, what do we got going on this week?
Yeah, Chris. Well, hey, when we were thinking about what the next episode should be, what I started to realize is day in and day out for a couple decades now, the reality is that we're asked a lot of the same questions over and over again. And so I just thought we'd hit like 10 of some of the most frequent questions that we get. But before we got into that, I wanted to give you guys some context on the market, because I think reading and understanding the market is the hardest thing for both the professional and the consumer alike. And I can prove this because one of the questions that I didn't put on our list of top 10 is that question I get when I'm standing in line for coffee all the time.
Yep.
And it's, how's the market? Right? And Every time. So Fannie Mae just did a home price sentiment index where they showed in their data that 22%, so that's like 1 out of 5, 22% of home buyers believe that prices will go down in 2024. But here's the problem. There's literally in the same study 100 economists, more actually, but 100 economists that responded to Fannie Mae's price sentiment index research that said that they believe over the next 5 years, home prices are going up.
So to kind of put it into context, that means like if you buy a $500,000 home today, let's see, around 2028, it could be possibly $600,000.
Yeah, $100,000.
That's insane.
That's $20,000 a year, which is half of what we talked about in a previous episode. What we saw our average client, when we went back into the history book, is typically earning. They're typically earning $45,000 to $48,000 a year over long-term holding of real estate in the Western Washington market, and the Idaho market's kind of a crapshoot because it had a price doubling inside of 18 months. So it's more than that depending on which point in history you're in. So with that aside, there's always this disconnect. It's the disconnect between the consumer and kind of like what's on the news. Like it's an election year. Like the news is like garbage, right?
I honestly, I don't even digest the news because it's just so much negativity in it.
Yeah.
And really, I look at facts, I look at statistics, I find those numbers, and that's what I base most of my stuff off of.
Yeah. So here's the conclusion. If 1 out of 5 believe the market's going down, I'm sad for our friends, and it's actually one of the reasons why we're doing this. We're trying to convince you that that's probably not true. And here's what I know. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I'm willing to bet you anything you want to bet, from like $1 to a cheeseburger to like a band, if you could buy and you don't buy in the next 60 months, you're going to regret it. I don't want to sound negative. I want to prevent a phrase that I actually loathe in the real estate space, which is this phrase: gosh, Chris, I wish I would have known.
Oh man, that regret. You know how often I hear people that talk to me about real estate, and they're always like, oh, I was stationed here and I really regret that I never bought a house. I should have bought a house when I was stationed, because I was in the military. So we would always talk about buying houses whenever we got station places, and how we could take advantage of this opportunity to move around and collect rental properties as we go around. And a lot of people will always regret not buying, 3 years down the road when they're about to transfer. They're like, man, if I would have just bought, I could have made $100,000.
Wow. All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into our top 10 most common questions that Chris and Joe get day in, day out, delivering the dream of home ownership, talking to people that have never owned a home, talking to people that want to move up, talking to people that want to become investors, talking to the people that are investors. Chris, like if there was one question of the moment, like if we only put one up on the board today, what is the one?
I mean, look, today's mortgage rate, I think it just dropped out of 7%. And now it's in the high sixes. So you got these guys that are comfortable, really smart. They put themselves in a position where they refinance into a 2 to 3% range, and
bought.
Yeah, or they bought, and now they're like, well, how do I sell a home when literally my payment is so low? I don't want to sell it.
Yeah, the cost of money is really different.
Yeah, and that's a really common denominator with a lot of people that are ready to actually sell or buy now, because they're like, well, I got this really good rate on there. Well, I say keep it.
Me too.
I say keep it.
It's not really good for business. Place Navigator audience, like, you're getting the inside scoop. Like, if we never listed a property for you again, it would suck for our business, but it would rock your net worth. Yeah. It would absolutely rock your net worth. So Chris, I got one of those mortgages. It starts with a 2. Like, let's say that I need or want to make a move. We're saying don't sell. So how in the world do I afford another house? Because a lot of my equity, bro, is tied up in that property.
And there's a lot of different strategies out there. And honestly, one of the ones that I've employed is using my rental properties as a way to, I get extra income that counts towards lending for my next house. Mm-hmm. You also are going to have equity in your house if you've been in it for at least 3 to 5 years. I'm almost willing to guarantee
maybe
that.
3 to 5 months.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you're going to have the equity. It's going to happen. So they're going to look at those numbers when it's time to buy your next house. And, if it makes sense, then keep that house, rent it out. Maybe even look at short-term rentals. It's if you're in a market where you have the ability to do the short term, do it. But really look at how you can hold on to it and let it mature a little bit more, and really propel you into that wealth that you never thought you would have ever been able to achieve. So
I think the other thing too is to maybe give yourself a little bit of slack. A lot of people have that mindset. We talked about this in an earlier episode too. Like, I gotta have 20% down. I gotta have 20% down. My gosh, like, if you need to or want to or have an opportunity to make a move, and 3.5% down or 5% down or 10 or 15, like, gets the job done. Like, again, when we look in the rearview mirror 60 months from now, even if you did a low down payment into your next property, I think we're going to be calling you a genius, not an idiot. Yeah. So the next question we get is, how much is my house worth? So Chris, you just met with some folks, and that's what they want to know. They want to know, how are you going to price their home? They often think that their home's the best one in the neighborhood. We'll try to have some kid gloves with that. Like, everybody thinks there's an it factor to their house that nobody else has. I think it's kind of debatable, but we'll leave that one alone. This is supposed to be, like a family-friendly show, so we better not go there.
Right.
And then from there,
I'm the one that misbehaves in the show, not you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. We do not want to get Chris's better half involved, because she runs herd on this deal.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, Zillow says, tax assessor says, my neighbor says, my house is better than my neighbor. Like, how do I price my house?
There's so many different data metrics that you guys can use to figure out the value of your home. But honestly, it's really, what is somebody going to be willing to pay for it? It's really, it comes down to that. Like, you could say all day, well, Redfin says my house is $600,000. Zillow says my house is $620,000. We walk in there, we look at it. We've been in all these houses. We know what's selling. We know what areas are out there. We know what the buyers are doing, because we're interacting with these sales and these clients over and over and over again. So, I mean, I walk into a house, and Redfin's not really accounting that you have heated tile throughout your entire house.
Yeah.
Somebody that walks in there is going to be like, that's cool. And
Right.
you don't know. That could probably propel you into a whole entire different price bracket that Redfin is not going to be able to tell you. But I'll tell you one thing, that we as real estate professionals, just like appraisers, what we do is we use data to come up with values to possibly sell a home for.
Yep. So I heard you say that there's a data price and that there's also the market price. The market is what somebody will pay. You know, I used this a lot in listing presentations years ago. I tell people like, hey, I legitimately grew up with like the Depression era grandma. And like you could have like the really cool baseball card, or you could have some other collectible or something. You could be like, grandma.
Are you watching what I collect, man? How can I collect baseball cards?
Right. And you can say, hey, grandma, this is worth X. And she'd say, no, it's not. She'd say it's not even worth $1 because it's garbage to her, right? She just put it in the burn pile.
Oh, what about all those people that have been collecting those Beanie Babies since 1992?
Yeah. Dude, again, it's a family-friendly show. Like, we can't go there. All right. So we start out with, what do I do when I have a 3% mortgage? We start out next with, what is my house worth? Next question, survey says, what's the next biggest question, Chris?
What are the steps to initiate the process of buying a home?
Yeah, how do I get started?
Yeah.
You know, the reality is that real estate's a team sport, and you need two people on your team. You need a solid real estate broker, and you need a solid lending mortgage professional, preferably a broker also. Yeah. And so really all you need to do is start there. I know that even I've got some existing clients right now that they're looking into a second home. Yep. You know, so they call and they say, gosh, we'd kind of like to buy a second home. And they literally say, and I mean, they're homeowners, right? Yeah. But they don't do it every day like we do it every day. And so they said, well, where do we start? Right. And it's like, well, you know, you kind of should know, but we're going to forgive you because I don't do this every day in other spaces, right? I'm not a pilot. I don't know where to start flying an airplane. Not yet. Right. For sure. But you know, what we know is that the immediate conversation is, let's get you with a lender. And some people are scared of the lender conversation. Yeah. They feel disqualified before they ever know if they are qualified.
I think a lot of people that are still kind of hurt by the 2008
time
frame, they're worried about lenders. And here's the thing, like, it's good to be skeptical. It's good. It's good to have that. And
they call that wisdom, I think.
I mean, yeah, you should really definitely look things up before you dive into it. And, you know, we honestly believe that if you don't do your own research, you're going to end up in a bad spot. So do your research on the team that you're going to be choosing, on the lender that you're going to be using. But I know right now, like, I love my mortgage partners. The people who I recommend, I've either done deals with them or I've worked with them on stuff, and it's really been awesome for my clients. And that's what it's all about. It's about making awesomeness for our clients.
Yeah. I think you have two outcomes when you go into it with the right perspective. I think outcome number one is that things are maybe more possible than you thought. You felt disqualified and you find out what is possible. But then in the situation where maybe there is some things that we got to work on, you're not disqualified. You walk out with a plan. They don't tell you, you suck, you're screwed, you're never gonna make it. They say, hey, here's what I need you to do, and they give you a plan. So I'd like to demystify, like if I was given a magic wand, demystify that fear that so many people have about having the lender conversation because they're afraid of being disqualified. We don't disqualify anybody. We either qualify them or we give them the plan of how to get qualified.
Yeah.
And if we can deliver that plan, then all of a sudden we're on the path of getting into ownership, starting to build wealth, doing all the things that you and I are so passionate about. So
I would like to say one thing, that if you're working with a realtor and they ask you that question, they're not really trying to figure out like, oh, well, I'm trying to hook you up with my mortgage broker. But what they're trying to do is to see how much planning have you put into it, so that way they can adjust their conversation to better suit you. So just
Right.
keep that in mind as well. And I think that this topic we could go on and
We'd
on.
probably build a whole show around that.
We probably could. It could be a whole entire, I don't know, place mortgage navigator.
Yeah. Bring in some of our lending partners or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris, like the next barrier, like we get them in the like decide to buy, we get them through the lender, they start shopping, they find something they fall in love with, and in a market that is more years than it hasn't been over the last 20 competitive.
Yeah.
Well, what is something that a lot of buyers experience?
You know, it's a real kick in the old butt whenever you get outbid on things.
Yeah,
really,
it's like that quote: "Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face."
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know, and sometimes you get punched in the face more times than you want.
Yeah.
It's just face.
A face for radio. All right. So, or podcast without video.
Ooh, no video.
No shots fired. All right. So Chris, I'm a buyer. I write an offer. You call me. You tell me I got outbid. Like, what do I do? I
mean, look, there's a couple different options here that we could do. We could either counter offer, and that's what like the agent relationship is going to be so important. Whenever you put an offer in, you need to communicate with your agent. What is it that you really want? Do you really want to get this house? All right. So if you're going to put an offer in, right, we're going to walk you through different kind of ways of how you can escalate your deal.
Right.
Or we're going to talk you through like, hey, do you want me to tell the agent, please give us a counteroffer option? Because we can do that as agents. Say, hey, we want to hear any of your counteroffers. Don't just kill our deal.
Yeah.
And there's multiple strategies. You could offer more money. You could possibly even look at, I mean, going back to the mortgage lender, if you have a good mortgage lender, they may be able to help you bridge the loan. And that could even be an option to make your offer sweet, because you may have a house online that hasn't been put on the market yet, and that could be killing your deal before it even gets looked at. And that bridge loan product can probably help you out.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've actually made a list of all of the multiple offer strategies that we've ever used, that we've ever seen, that we've ever received working for sellers. And we provide that list to our clients. And I don't know, Chris, like if they gave us a review on our podcast, would we give them our secret squirrel list of multiple offer strategies?
Hey, you guys comment on this. You guys review us. I think we'll send that to them. I mean, that's a pretty good incentive, you know.
Yeah.
That right there could probably help you out. Well, we hope that they're going to be our clients.
Yeah.
But hey.
Yeah. Well, even better. But, but you know, maybe I was just trying to find a lady. She's trying to get back to her mom to help her. Her mom's aging in Joplin, Missouri. And it was a little bit harder to find somebody that could help her in Joplin. I mean, I got it figured out, but you know, maybe they're in Joplin. So, so they'll just need the list and go from there. So Chris, like there's this big misconception, and right now it's like all over the news. In fact, there are some people that are going to be receiving these like ambulance chaser, scammer, attorney postcards right now about how real estate agents get paid. So you have that Scrooge McDuck vault of like all the gold coins, and you swim in it every morning before you come into the office, right?
Correction, my wife swims in it.
Rubs it all over and. No. Okay. So how?
I mean, is this horse poop? Because that's quite possible. Okay. We can make that happen.
Oh, the dog in the barn. Gotcha. She's taking the dog to the dog wash because Okay. So how do we get paid?
Well, here's the thing. We don't get paid unless there's a deal, right?
Results.
And that's the whole entire thing where everybody's talking about commissions for the realtors. It's because realtors weren't securing buyer contracts. They weren't going over all the different things of explaining how they're getting paid, how they're, why they're giving them their service, like what's their rights. They're not going over all that stuff. And so a lot of people were confused about how their agents were actually getting paid, and they just see the commission check and they think, oh, well, that agent's getting X amount. and that's not true. That money does not all go to that agent. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
It's got to cover all the different marketing. It's got to cover everything. It's just like whenever you go into Nordstrom's, right? And you go buy a brand new pair of shoes. I mean,
like those $200 shoes, like the expensive, nice ones.
I mean, I can't say that I've gone there to buy myself a pair of shoes, but I've definitely gone there to buy a pair of shoes for my kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are a little bit more expensive, but it was a treat, right? And that commission that shoe salesperson gets is based off of the shoe that I buy.
Yeah. So it's in the price of the shoe. So what you're saying is that the commissions that are being paid are in the price of the home, and where some of our friends in the industry maybe went wrong. In fact, the language that really was called out in the Seltzer case was, oh, you can have a buyer's agent for free. It's not free.
It's not free.
It's in the price of the home. And so as long as everybody understands that, I like your Nordstrom example, because we're one of our markets, right? We're here in Everett, Washington right now. One of our markets is Boeing. Boeing employees, there's a Boeing manufacturing plant, all that kind of stuff. So I know a lot of people that work at Boeing. You know a lot of people that work at Boeing. Oh, yeah. Boeing sells an airplane. Like, it's a big purchase, right? Like a house, like a little bigger.
I mean,
just a little bit.
It's kind of
maybe like 147 houses, maybe.
I mean,
yeah. Right? But no one person at Boeing gets all the money from the airplane.
No, that's
right.
No, the field steel guy, he's not getting all the money. The fabricator, he's not getting all the money. The support equipment person who runs all the equipment, or the manager who's managing everybody, or the engineer, they don't get all the money. It's divided. And I mean, the company gets the income from selling that jet, and then from that income, they're able to cover all their materials. They're able to cover all their contracts. They're able to pay all their employees. Marketing,
buttons, switches, like everything.
Doors.
Yeah, doors. Too soon, my man. All right. So, what if I want to sell a home and I want to buy another home, and I put my home on the market and it sells really fast and I can't find another home? What do I do?
Well, congratulations on your home selling.
Thank you.
That's pretty good.
So you're a realtor that made me homeless? Is that
hey, I've been homeless too. Hey, I'll tell you what. There's
this
a
is
lot
getting
of
raw and real around here.
I mean,
maybe we shouldn't do it like in the same room anymore. Just saying. This might be bad. We might be on restriction when our spouses.
Oh man. Hey, but there is ways to build it into the contract whenever you do sell your home to get a rent back. There's that option, and it's actually understandable, and it's actually a very common practice to actually request to rent back your own home. And you can build that into the contract, and you can even put it in there. So, Joe, you just sold your home. Was that written into your contract?
I don't know. You were my agent.
Oh, I wrote it into the contract.
You did?
I knew you're going to be homeless.
Perfect.
You didn't sell your house, all right?
Yeah.
So that's one of those strategies. That's why putting your house on the market before you go and shop is really important, because one, if your house is not on the market, it's going to make it really hard for them to think that your offer is strong. There's ways to make it enticing, but it's probably going to cost your pocket a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I know for a bridge loan, it's going to cost you 2.4%. Don't quote me on these, okay? I'm not a mortgage professional.
The last one you saw.
The last one I saw.
Right.
And that's a pretty chunk of cash when you start talking
2.4% of the bridge loan amount was.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the house that you're going to sell, and they're going to like allow you to go finance a house without you being contingent, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. So it really is. So I mean, the rent payback or rent back is going to be a really good option. And honestly, I think even from my own personal experience, I had to have a rent buyback. I sold my house, and I found out Christmas of 2016 that I was homeless.
Oh man!
But guess what? I had a good realtor that made sure I had rent back, and that I wasn't actually homeless. And we ended up closing on the property that we have now today. So it really did work out for us.
Yeah. And there's lots of strategies, but we want to keep on our list here. I mean, we've already made it to number 7 of our top questions, and Chris was serving our nation and doing a lot of awesome things during this time. So I'm going to steal this one. But questions I get all the time, and I worked this market through and through in late 2008, 9, 10, 11 is, where are all the foreclosures? Or I only want to buy a foreclosure, or I'm going to wait for the foreclosures. So I pulled you guys some data because I just, the thing is knowledge is power. And so in Washington, we estimate that we have 3,216,243 housing units. And in January of 2024, 276 of those homes went into foreclosure. You know what you do when you put 276 and divide it by 3.2 million? You get that little like E thing on your calculator with the minus and all that stuff in math class that I didn't really think would apply to my life, so I didn't math. So, it's not a calculable percentage point. It's quite negligible, the number of homes that are in foreclosure. And in our other market in Idaho, we have 758,877 housing units, and 153 of them in January of 24 went into foreclosure, which is a significantly higher fraction of a percent. So I guess if you want some foreclosures, we need to help you out in Idaho more than Washington. We got a better shot. But here's what we also know. We know that based on the last number of years, that if somebody hasn't just recently bought the home and never made a house payment, they probably have enough equity to sell even if they're in foreclosure. So they're going to still get a pretty decent price because our inventory never recovered from when building stopped in 2008. Like, that's why we've experienced the market we've experienced from 2012 forward is when you look at the graphs of that inventory line, the gap between where we would have been had that mortgage banking crisis never happened and where we are, the difference between what would have been and what reality is this big gap. And it's just created a huge housing shortage. So that's foreclosures, you guys. It's something that, like, if the right thing worked out, it would be super cool. Yeah. But it's not a strategy that you're going to have a lot of success in today. So Chris, we started out the year. In fact, we did a 2024 predictions. Like, we are documented as to our predictions. Yeah. And one of our predictions was interest rates will go down. Yeah. And they went down a skosh. Right? Like, that's a highly technical term, right? Yeah, skosh. They went down a skosh, but like, are they really down?
When you look at a meter, what's a skosh on the meter?
Yeah. We have special words in Idaho. We'll teach them to you. Yeah. Pert near and
so they did go down a skosh, and then they went back up. They just dropped again today. I mean, it's really kind of fluctuating between the low 7s and high 6s. And that's for a 30 rate that I just talked about, a 30-year rate. And it's just kind of going up and down. I mean, economists did say that we are supposed to be seeing something a little bit lower than where we're at today. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but the question is will interest rates go down? When you kind of back it up and you kind of widen the scope on where we're at in history, and you look further and further and further out, I mean, if you look in the last 50 years, we're actually at a really good rate.
Right.
Like, the historical.
Phenomenal.
Like, we're at like
the average rate's like 7.5 or 7.8.
Yeah, I mean, but the days of 3%, they're
gonzo.
They're gone.
Yeah.
So people are now realizing that this is the new norm.
Yeah.
This is where it's at, and everybody wants those 3% back, but that took COVID and a lot of other things.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to relive all the things that set that up, because now apparently you treat COVID like the flu, but again, family friendly. Got to leave that alone.
Yeah.
So Chris, the rates are high, and the prices are high, and I want to make a low offer. Help me out.
Oh man.
How do I get that price low?
I think one thing is, all right, here, you want a lower price? Well, buy a house now. Don't wait 3 years from now to buy a house.
Oh man.
Because you're gonna be paying a lot more for that same house.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you bought a house 3 years ago, would you be smiling?
I mean, yeah, because the house, oh my goodness.
You'd have a lower price and a lower rate.
Yeah, lower rate, lower price. I mean, I feel like a genius when I bought my houses back in 2017. You know, like
Was it stressful then?
Yeah.
Did it scare the heck out of you?
Hell yeah, it did.
Were you kind of broke when you like put the downstroke?
I was so house poor was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing everything we could to make sure that it worked. And guess what? We made it work.
Yeah, it worked. All right. So we're looking at a couple different things when you're making a low offer. Let me tell you why I don't think it's a good use of your time and emotional energy. In Snohomish County, I looked at the last 90-day average list price to sales price ratio, and it was 100.2%. And in the city of Boise, it was 98.2%. So here's what that translates to. You ask a dollar.
Move the Boise.
Yeah, to save $9,000 for $9,000. It might cost you $9,000 to move, but
it's going to cost a lot more than $9,000 for me to move. I know
especially with real estate fees, right? So if you're asking a dollar, do you get a dollar? Well, in Snohomish County, you're getting $1 in like a tip.
Yeah.
Like back when we used to tip on like the 25-cent coffees, you'd leave it.
That's extra. A whole entire different subject.
Yeah.
That's another rabbit hole we don't want to go
down. Right. And in Boise, like you get to wiggle like some closing costs and maybe some repairs, but what it means is that the homes are pretty much selling at what they're listing at. And Chris, what happens when they don't sell at what they're listed at?
I mean, they're either selling for more, or they literally pull them off, wait, and come back, and then they sell them for what they're asking for.
Gotcha. Yep. They might lower the price, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So number 10, we're wrapping this up, everybody. We are at number 10. Why does the tax assessed value and Zillow and every other ding dong website out there say multiple different numbers?
I like my tax assessed value really low, by the way.
Yeah? You don't like to pay extra taxes?
I mean, I pay my taxes for the record.
Yeah.
But I like the lower tax assessment. So, here's the thing. All right. So the tax assessment, you're not getting somebody that comes into your home, looks at every single aspect of your house, and then analyzes the tax on there. They're looking at a large scope, looking at your land value, looking at your improvement value, which is your house. And then when you look at like Redfin and Zillow, they're really just kind of throwing things up. I feel like they're throwing things up on the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. And they use data points. Yeah, they do, but they're not going to be like there to see exactly like what you have in the house. Like, do you have that radiant heat? Do you have 3 laundry rooms, one for every floor? Do you have like the top of the line kitchen that everybody's craving? Like those.
Or does it smell like cats and you got a blue tarp roof?
Oh man, the blue tarp roof.
Yeah,
you're giving me PTSD.
Okay, all right. So the reality is that all those assessments, they have a purpose, but they're not necessarily accurate to what you could sell your home for. Tax assessment is for taxes, and it's in last year's perspective.
Yes, it's always
Zillow's an algorithm. We use algorithms. Your mortgage company uses algorithms.
No.
And at the end of the day, if it's tight or if it's questionable, they bring in a human. We see things like appraisal waivers right now. That's when the algorithms say there's so much equity in this property, you're getting such a good deal that we don't even care about an appraisal. Those are the good deals.
No.
But the tight deals, they bring in a human.
Nope.
Right? So that's going to be different. You can't base, this is what we want our people to hear. You can't base the value of your property based on what the tax assessment says or what a website says. If you really want to know the closest metric to a value, then you're going to get a real estate professional involved that understands the market.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they're touching the house and seeing the house, so that way they can give you an accurate number. But remember when we talked about it takes 2 to tango, and really it's going to be what are they willing to pay for that house is what it ultimately turns into.
Yep. Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you. I hope that our listeners, our viewers, that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you find value in it. I hope that maybe this answered one of the questions that might be on your mind, and we'd love to get into more detail and that kind of stuff with you. If you want to get into some additional details and let us know how we can serve you. So gosh, Chris, if they got one thing out of this conversation today, what could they do to help us out?
Give us a 5-star rating. Give us that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, share. And then remember, the most important thing is to have a plan, have that team, that support that's around you. We would love to be a part of that. And if you don't know of anybody that's in the same area as Idaho or Washington State, feel free to reach out to us. Send us a comment. Be like, hey, I'm not in Idaho. I'm in Florida. Who do I talk to start this? Hit us up. We can help you out with that.
Yeah. We have 3,000 network agents across the U.S. That all have the same quality and level of training and data and tools and resources as we do. So this is Place Navigators. I'm Joe Platts.
I'm Chris Elder.
And we are out.